it's a market which actually has grown from safety to going towards a pleasure-driven market. In fact, actually, it's easier to be a condom maker going into gloves rather than gloves coming into condoms.
2024 has been wow for Malaysian Small Cap Index, hitting a 10-year high as we speak. It's one of the best performing markets in the region. I've wanted to dive deep into small cap stocks, but I didn't know where to start. Then, I found RHB Small Cap Duo 2024 edition, packed with all the insights I needed. Get your copy with the link in the description. After flipping through the ebook, I was hooked and I wanted more. So I'm interviewing the CEOs of these small cap companies, and here's the fun part. At the end of each episode, I will ask for a gift from the CEO and pass it on to the next guest. By the end, we'll see how much the final gift is worth. It's going to be a fun and engaging adventure as we uncover the stories behind these small cap gems. Let's see what treasures we can uncover together. In conjunction with the launch of RHB Small Cap Duo 2024 edition, there are 20 companies that are included in this book. And one of the many companies is Karex, which is the world's largest condom manufacturer. It's my honor today to have the Group Managing Director, MK Goh, to be with us today to talk more about the company in detail. So welcome to the show, MK.
Thank you.
Karex is the world's largest condom manufacturer, but many people didn't know about it until the company went IPO. So there's sort of like a missed gap in terms of the company's history and the background and all that. Do you mind to just share with us a bit of background prior to the company when IPO?
Well, we started in 1988. It's been over 36 years now. You know, my family has been in the rubber business for, in fact, myself as actually the fourth generation in the family in the rubber business. And we started because of the HIV epidemic. There was a lot of usage back then. You know, governments, WHO was trying to find a solution for the global HIV/AIDS problem. So that's where, my grandfather and my dad and my uncles, they thought that, since that they already know rubber, there were quite a number of people who were jumping into the glove business. We went into the condom business, and that's how we sort of first started with buying our first machine in 1988, and we started manufacturing condoms then. I would say there's been a lot of contributing factor in terms of how we, got so big. One of the few things is the fact that, we built our own machines. So Karex not only made condoms, but we built our own machines. And that was when I would say that in the 90s, it was where there was so much promotion from governments, and people were looking for the next big thing in condoms. So, there were so many interesting products that people were looking for. They were making black condoms. I remembered being part of a color-changing condom process. There was a condom where you put on, and when it turns hot, it change color.
Oh, wow.
From purple to pink.
Okay.
So, we did that, and then people were asking for glow in the dark. Because at that same time, Durex has been around for over 100 years, and they had a lot of new products. So everybody wanted to beat a big brand like Durex. When Durex have 10 items, you want to have 12, 13 items. So people were then looking for innovation. People were looking for new products in the market. And the fact that because we could make our own machines, innovation was something not too difficult for us.
So how difficult is it for a glove company to venture into condom, and how difficult is it from condom into gloves?
So they're all medical devices.
Right.
Medical devices has multiple levels. There are basically 4 levels as per the European sort of classification of medical devices. It starts with a class 1, and it starts with a 2A, then 2B, and then class 3 is the highest classification.
Okay.
Class 3 is only when you have medicated medicines or active ingredients like benzocaine or anesthetic or drugs involved there. Condom is a class 2B. WHO and all the authorities in the world know that it's a life-saving product. So that's why the requirement is extremely high when it comes to condom, and the entry barrier is actually very high. Right? In fact, actually, it's easier to be a condom maker going into gloves rather than gloves coming into condoms. Okay. So for Karex, we're also producing class 3 medical devices. So some of our products that we have with benzocaine. So for people who needed condoms with a benzocaine, so they usually call it a delaying effect condom. So a Mr. 2 minute can be Mr. 20 minute or Mr. half an hour. So those are the things that generally it's tough, and getting class 3 certification is fairly tough.
Right. right until today, if you go out to the street and you ask anybody, the first word that comes to mind when I mention the word condom, I think it is still Durex.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Karex is the world's largest condom manufacturer. So no doubt you sell more condoms than Durex. But subsequently, I think you also venture into brands. You bought for the one brand, which is behind you right now.
Yep.
To manage a brand, it's very different from being an expert to produce the best condom coming up from the factory. How was the experience like for you when you venture into the different side of the world?
A lot of learning, to learn in terms of branding. It's, when you're in manufacturing side, it's all about cost saving. But when you're in branding and marketing, it's all a different change altogether.
Yeah.
It's all about how much more money you need to spend on advertising and all that. So
You need to sell the emotion.
yeah, deep down in sort of the DNA of Karex is always being innovative. So we were looking for a innovative brand that can grow, which is something that fits within the DNA of the company. So right after IPO, one of the things that I looked at and says that I was looking at the value chain of condoms, and I was looking at the fact that when you look at a condom, and if someone were to walk into a pharmacy today, whether in the US or in Europe, and if you're going to buy a condom, you'll be paying an average of about $1 a condom. And I've always been selling condoms bulk to government at 3 cents a condom. And I always ask this question is, where the hell did this 97 cents go? Right? So that is really why it is important for us to really move up the value chain. So that's been what I wanted to do because, at IPO as well, a lot of people came to me and say, MK, you are already the largest condom maker at IPO day. What do you want more? Right? And I've been very clear to tell them that I think where Karex is, I think we're still in a very early stage of growth. Yes, we may be the largest condom maker in the world, but we don't have the value yet. We're very small. My question is, how do I grow beyond 3 cents? How do I go from 3 cents to maybe 30 cents one day? And in 30 cents, you're still producing the same product. It's coming from the same factory, but it's just branded differently with a lot more creativity. And I think that's where the DNA of Karex is. It's, from the day we started building machines, building a brand, I think it is challenging, but I think it's doable. When we went into IPO as well, we had approximately 3% of our group revenue back then with our own brand. And it is a brand called Karex. Where we did was went around and I was looking for a brand that I believed in. And that is where we acquired Global Protection. David Whittle, founder of Global Protection, was a client of mine. We worked together. In fact, I was there when he was actually telling me all about the story of One, how he wanted One to grow as a brand. So what I did was we acquired the company together with David, and David today is within the senior team of our whole branding division. And
Right. You have been very big in the tender market, so you sell condoms to governments. Yes, it may be 3 cents per condom, but it's a very steady business. You roughly know every year how much this client is going to buy from you. Why didn't grow that part of the pie and jump straight into branding?
Well, I think the tender market is where we started
Yeah.
in the 80s and 90s, right? But I think no business is in perpetuity. The world is changing. Today, we see that there's been a lot of talks within the industry in terms of, when will government stop buying condoms? Today, we are starting to see that governments are pulling back. Because at the point of time, almost half the world's condom was actually given out by governments.
Half the world's condom demand is by the government.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? And back then, it was in the 80s and 90s when Africa was poor, Asia was poor. But today, the situation has changed. So that's where we can see that, and that is about to happen. And if I have not changed that path for Karex, when I had the opportunity to do so, I might be out of business today.
And I think that has sort of reflected in your financial result as well. So today, the commercial market business segment has grown, I think, about half of the revenue.
60%.
Okay, yeah. So it's about 60% of the revenue comes from commercial market. 20% of the revenue today comes from the tender market. 60% comes from commercial, which makes the remaining comes from your very own brand,
Yeah.
which you acquired, right, with the one brand.
Yeah.
But subsequently, I also noticed that you continue to acquire more companies. Some of them comes with brands as well. My question would be, wouldn't one brand be enough for you to achieve your objective? So why do you need multiple brands?
Yes, I only need one brand, but I need distribution channels. Like when I went to the UK, I realized that it's not easy to launch a brand in Europe without having a base in Europe. We went into the acquisition of Pasante. Basically, that was a model which we know that will be enabling us to get into the NHS model. Because the NHS in the UK actually procures about 30 to 40% of the UK total consumption. So if you are in the UK, if anyone below 25 years old, actually you could walk into an NHS clinic and get free condom.
Oh, okay.
And that volume is actually large. And the thing is that, being a condom maker here, we have no access to get into those models.
So those acquisitions are mainly because of regulatory constraint in certain markets?
Regulatory and also with regards to distribution channels and models. Because today, for example, we see that this condom world is ever changing. There are brands in all the markets. But the distribution models are changing as well, right? In the past, we do see a lot of convenience store, we see a lot of drugstore, supermarkets are selling them today. But with the pandemic, we're also seeing,
e-commerce,
as the next channel that's coming up. So what happens is that, yes, we have the big brands that are with us. At the same time, we have our own brand.
Yeah, speaking of other products, when I look into your earnings release, one particular product, which is personal lubricant, has catch up in terms of your revenue breakdown. Is it because more people are using lubricants today?
Personal lubricants has been there for a long time. Why has personal lubricants division grown for Karex? Regulations. There has been a lot of new regulations now. Because what happens is that in the past, a lot of personal lubricants were made by a lot of cosmetic companies, some factories that was making shampoos. But US, even China, Europe has actually changed their regulation. With Europe now, the change of new regulation coming, lubricants are now classified also a Class 2B medical device.
Why so serious?
The thing is that people always say, when after sex, the condom comes out.
Correct.
But the personal lubricant continues to stay in the body for an extended period of time.
Okay.
And there is actually a lot of data to show that, there is a lot of side effects. And those areas can have a lot of easy contamination. So a lot of personal lubricants, some of them that are not safe, are laced with very strong preservatives. That some of them could have parabens and stuff like that, which potentially you might not mind putting on the skin, but not something inside the body.
We are quite familiar with the products that you produce and you have. Now, let's talk about the challenges that you faced a couple of years back during the pandemic. For the past 2 years, it has been red, right? Losses. And that mainly comes from the tender market slowing down.
The usage is still there, but the usage has dropped significantly. In fact, it's the first time that we've seen that the condom market actually dropped as much as 40% globally throughout the pandemic. Governments, of course, had to re-divert their funds towards COVID-related. HIV/AIDS has to be put aside. And, when you're looking at the people who are using them, they are basically the young people. I think we all came out of COVID, we know it's not fun. I don't think a lot of people were very unsure about the economic outlook. It was difficult to get things up, down there. At least I'm glad that, the world has gone back into some level of normalcy. So that's where the demand of condoms actually has gone up now again.
I think the company in terms of financial is also turning around, and I guess that's the reason why RHB is putting Karex back as a small cap duo in 2024. So my previous guest was the head of research from RHB. He actually wrote something, and that was what he wanted to give it to you.
Thank you very much. Tell the market what they've been missing out on. Well, I think they've been missing out on Karex.
Okay, so what do you foresee going forward? What is the outlook for Karex?
Well, I think there is still a lot of growth potential in Karex. In a way that we are not only looking at the demand side. I think what we didn't really speak about as well is that, we think about the industry. In fact, the industry is one which is the entry barrier is actually very high. But I think one of the other areas that a lot of people who are not very sure is the fact that, Karex is actually in the midst of launching its synthetic condoms as well. Synthetic condoms is actually a very interesting play altogether in condoms. Because why synthetics is important, I think there is a lot to do with the usage of condoms as well. One of the person actually who acknowledges the fact that condom is actually not used so much in this global solution for ending HIV/AIDS or STIs is actually Bill Gates himself. He came out with the next generation challenge over 10 years ago because he realized that the natural rubber condom that I've been making is over 100 years old technology.
But there's a reason for that, right? Because I recall natural rubber has a better grip. Therefore, it is the material to make condoms. Synthetic rubber may not give you that same quality, right?
Put it this way, I guess the 80s was a time when World Health Organization was panicking because they didn't know what to do with HIV. And they realized that, it's a sexually transmitted infection or it's a drug through fluid, and a big portion of it was basically through sexual transmission. To get everybody, it's just that natural rubber was a very stretchable material. It can fit almost every man. And it's cheaper because natural rubber is a cheap material generally, and it can be distributed everywhere and very stable. Today, if you look at the shelves in every market today, you only see ultra thin. Everything is about 003, 002, 001, and people are starting to take a bit more risk. They want to feel their partner more. So that's why I've been always saying that it's a market which actually has grown from safety to going towards a pleasure-driven market. So basically, synthetic material is something which it's made out of petrol-based derivatives, and it gives a better heat transferability. So it's very important for Karex to move into the space of synthetics. So this is something which is, we are in the midst of launching that. And I think this will definitely give us a model which I think what a lot of times we talk about earlier was, Karex has always been an OEM player. We're going to own brand. But I think it's not only about an OEM going to own brand. I think there's a lot of strategies where we're also moving towards not just own brand, but innovations in terms of people coming to actually use our technology.
Cool. Before we end the show, I can't let you go without asking you the same question as the previous guest. Do you have anything on you that you think that you want to pass it on to my next guest for this RHB Small Cap Duo 2024 edition?
Got a condom, I guess. From a condom player. I hope the next person who have this will enjoy using it.
Thanks very much, MK. Thanks for your time. I understood the business a lot more compared to just reading from the reports and all that. And thanks to RHB to flag this small cap duo out, and therefore we are able to have this conversation today. All the best with your new product launch. I hope I can see it on the shelf soon, then I can try it on myself.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, MK.
Thanks
for your time.